I've had an interest in healing since I was very young, and mostly that came about from living with my grandmother who was deaf. She had a very deep love for the natural world, so as a young person, 5, 6, 7, I used to spend a lot of time outside with her, and I was really drawn to the plants and the animals. Particularly, we'd go out and spend a lot of time just sitting in fields and watching the wildlife around. Herbs basically are the oldest form of medicine on this planet. People have relied on the plants wherever they've lived on this planet for thousands and thousands of years. It's very old and is time-tested. People have relied on whatever the plants were in their local area for generation upon generation, and particularly have passed that tradition on orally from grandmother to mother to daughter. Herbs offered people living in rural areas access to help, it's particularly in first aid situations if they needed it. So I make connections with my neighbors because I think it's important that we do that. So my neighbor Tom Wolf heard about me, that I work with plants, and just stopped by one day.
By profession, I'm a flutist, and I tour the world each year and concertize, as well as doing arts consulting. One summer, I was having a great deal of difficulty with cramps in my legs. I went to the drugstore, as I always do when I need medicine, and unfortunately, nothing seemed to work. So in desperation, I came down to Deb Soul and to Avena Botanicals, and I described my ailment, and she gave me some ointment. I figured, can't hurt me, maybe it can help. I expected it would take at least a couple of weeks to see any results. The very day that I rubbed the ointment on the back of my leg, having had cramps all summer, the cramps went away. I ran 5 miles. I've been using the ointment ever since, and I've not had a problem with cramps in 3 years in the back of my legs. So I've become a convert. I'm still skeptical about a lot having to do with herbal medicines, but since the time that I bought the ointment, I've also gotten a cure for poison ivy, and some buzzing has gone away in my ears, so whatever she does, it seems to work.
This is bee balm, and there's five different colors of bee balm that grow here in the garden. And 2 reasons why I grow them. One is because the bees and the hummingbirds love them so much, and so they're throughout here in the morning time, they're just covered with bees and the hummingbirds. And the other reason is, of course, because we make tea from them. We dry the flowers and the leaves, and we also make tincture from them, which is an alcohol-based extract, to extract the medicine properties. What we use it for is immune-enhancing abilities. So people drinking tea or taking drops of tincture in water will find their immune system over a period of time will be a little bit stronger. And it also helps to relax the body a little bit.
I do prescribe herbs, although the herbs I prescribe are the ones which have been researched carefully and are sold by pharmaceutical companies, and we no longer call them herbs. We call them drugs. Formerly, they would have been herbal remedies.
I find it interesting that people term herbs as alternative medicine when really the alternative medicine is Western medicine because it's so new. Herbs have been used and relied upon for thousands of years. To me, that is enough scientific information in itself.
For anything I prescribe, I have to have a certain standard of proof to decide whether this is useful or not. And I tend to fall back onto, has this treatment, be a surgical treatment or a medication, been studied in a scientific way?
There is an incredible amount of knowledge that comes with using particular plants for such length of time. So that in itself is a scientific observation. It was a very interesting experience to have the Food and Drug Administration come knocking on my door, flash badges at me the first time, and say they can come into my house and that I was under investigation for manufacturing drugs. Now, I don't manufacture drugs. Plants aren't considered to be the way in which I make tinctures and oils and salves aren't drugs because I don't label them as claiming to have any medicinal value. So it was an interesting experience to be labeled as a drug manufacturer, and for a month I was under investigation. They kept coming here every week, and they basically went through everything that I make, all the literature that I write, basically tearing apart everything that I do to try and find some little weakness, perhaps, that they could jump onto. Well, they couldn't find anything. Everything I do here is under code. We're inspected by the Department of Agriculture, so we come under their laws. And I wasn't doing anything legally wrong. So basically, they had a good time harassing me. I've dedicated my whole life to working with plants and helping people heal with plants for a number of reasons. One is that I love plants very much. They're my friends. I feel very connected to them on many different levels, and I've come to have a very good working understanding of how they grow and when the particular times are to pick them, when they're most potent, and how they help people. So that's one reason why I feel very strongly about working with the plants, because I know that they help people.